He thought he stole 1.5 million euros, but what it really contained was amazingly revealed. Sam Mitchell trudged home through the incessant drizzle, feeling the weight of a long day hanging heavy on his shoulders. The office had been unbearable, a monotonous entanglement of spreadsheets and ledgers that never seemed to add up. Bills piled high on the kitchen counter, looming as large as the student loan reminder emails that haunted his inbox. He could see the exhaustion in his wife Emily's eyes, the subtle lines of worry etched too deeply across her brow. The thought of his 2 young children growing up with the same relentless struggle filled him with a sense of desperation that clawed at his insides. As he took a familiar shortcut through Maplewood Park, something caught his eye, a battered old suitcase half buried in some bushes. Driven by a mix of curiosity and a deep-seated hope, Sam leaned down and pried it open. What glittered back at him from the depths brought a rapid rush of blood to his face. Stacks of crisp currency shimmered like a promise under the dull sky. He was practically trembling as he counted. 1.5 million euros? The idea alone was intoxicating. Pay off debts, secure a home in a better neighborhood, finally put away something for his children's college fund. But as he dug deeper, as he flipped through the letters tightly packed amongst the money, everything shifted. They were addressed from a man named Walter McKinney, a local philanthropist with a long history of generosity woven into the fabric of the town. The letters captured his journey through hardship, how he had transformed his fortune into a lifeline for the homeless and those who lost everything during the economic downturn. Page after page, warmth and urgency spilled from the ink, each one imploring change and connection. It was all so starkly different from Sam's life, a life caught in relentless bills and depleted dreams. He hesitated. An unthinkable dilemma enveloped him like a cold fog. Take this money for his family's immediate relief or honor Walter's legacy, and use it to give back to this town that had given him so little. His mind raced. The lessons from his late father echoed in his ears, the unwavering emphasis on integrity and hard work. What his father said about navigating the murky waters of life haunted him now, valuing character over the facade of wealth. Yet the shimmering stacks beckoned like a tempting siren song. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Sam's mind spun in chaotic disarray. How could he reconcile this windfall with a legacy of altruism? Seconds felt like hours as he considered the impact of either choice. What kind of man did he want to be? The suitcase sat ominously on the floor, filled with dreams and nightmares alike, the weight of his decision pressing down on his chest. Suddenly, a sharp knock at the door startled him from his reverie. His breath hitched as he opened it to find a local journalist, eager eyes glinting with curiosity about the vanished fortune of Walter McKinney and its mystery. Sam was caught off guard, knowing none of them could foresee the storm brewing inside him or the role he was destined to play. The tension coiled within him, tightening like a noose around his resolve. With a pounding heart, he realized the perfect setup for his own legacy awaited him. He felt the pressure build. The decision before him tightened like a vice. Would he claim a fortune or seek to honor a greater purpose? The suitcase glowed more intensely now, beckoning him deeper into a decision that would forever change the course of his life. Sam's heart raced as he faced the journalist, a world outside his own rapidly closing in around him. His instinct was to shut the door, retreat beneath the fog of uncertainty that veiled him, but he knew that decision would haunt him. He took a deep breath, forcing his mind to focus. The suitcase filled with money was a tempest of issues unfolding, and how he engaged with it would define not just his fate, but his family's as well. "Hello, Mr. Mitchell," the journalist said, a bright smile illuminating his face. "I'm here to ask about Walter McKinney. What's your opinion on his legacy?" Sam felt trapped. He couldn't articulate the conflict inside him without revealing the suitcase's existence. Instead, he managed a strained smile and said, "Walter was a great man. He did a lot for the community." The journalist pressed on. "Do you think his fortune should be handled differently now that it's gone missing? What would you do if you got your hands on it?" The question struck like lightning. Sam stood at a crossroads, a convergence of his desires for prosperity and the moral obligation to honor the man whose letters spoke of a life lived with purpose. I think it's essential to remember the intent behind it, he replied, his voice steadier than he felt. We should be doing good, not just taking for ourselves. Interesting perspective, the journalist nodded, jotting down notes. The moment strung out painfully, each second weighing heavier than the last. Sam's thoughts spiraled, torn between his fears of financial breakdown and the kind of man he aspired to be. That nagging sense of desperation overwhelmed him again, creeping back into corner of his mind, threatening to unravel his resolve. What would it mean for his children to inherit a fortune built on dishonesty? As the journalist continued to interview him, a thought struck Sam with sudden clarity. He might have a way to honor Walter without sacrificing his family's needs. He could implement Walter's principles into his life, using his voice to spotlight the struggles of others while mapping out a plan for his own family's future. The realization ignited something within him, a passion for change that he had buried beneath layers of stress and obligation. Maybe, he began slowly, if I can find a way to invest this money into something meaningful, a project that can help others like Walter did, it could become a beacon of hope in this town. The journalist's interest visibly piqued. What kind of project? The floodgates opened as Sam's ideas began to spill forth. A community garden? A scholarship fund for local students? Even a resource center for families battling financial struggles. He was weaving a tapestry of connection and purpose that throbbed with life, and he felt the chains of self-doubt loosening their grip. Yet with each vibrant plan forged in the moment, the suitcase loomed like a dark shadow. For every proposed benefit, doubts surfaced. Would he truly be able to relinquish the allure of a cushioned life for the sake of altruism? Could he trust himself enough to lead a life of giving when he had been so focused on survival? As the conversation concluded, leaving a hesitant hope hanging in the air, the journalist looked at him curiously. It sounds like you're ready to fight for something important, Sam. Maybe it's time to step into a role you never considered before. The statement lodged in Sam's throat like a spoonful of bitter medicine. Stepping into a new role meant confronting his own fears and insecurities, challenging everything he had allowed to define him. Elevated by this resolve, he closed the door, sealing his intentions. He needed a plan, for his family's future, for the legacy of Walter McKinney, and for the powerful voice he could become. He pulled the suitcase from the floor and opened it, letting the money breathe in the dim light of his living room, feeling the thoughts racing back to that dilemma, to claim for himself or to give back. As he stood there, the weight of the decision hanging in the air, uncertainty clawed at him once more. Suddenly his phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. A challenge, perhaps? He hesitated. What awaited him on the other side could either ignite his purpose or shatter his resolve. What would he choose? Sam felt the vibrations in his hand as the phone buzzed again. The message was unexpected, pulling him from the whirlwind of thoughts surrounding the suitcase. Anxiety mixed with curiosity as he considered the implications of opening it. What if it was an offer? Or worse, a threat? He hesitated only for a moment, then tapped the notification. Meet me at the diner, 9 p.m. I know what's in the suitcase. The words throbbed in his chest like a drum, echoing his newfound determination and fears. He felt a mix of adrenaline and nausea. This could be the moment that defined his choice, pursuing a life of integrity or being dragged deeper into a web of compromise. Did this anonymous sender understand the choices he faced? Sam couldn't shake the feeling that the universe was pushing him to confront his own morality. He glanced at the suitcase, its presence as tangible as a physical weight. 1.5 million euros could transform his circumstances, offers of a luxurious future flickering in his mind. Yet, each thought of taking the easy route turned sour as it brushed against the legacy of Walter. Sam closed his eyes momentarily, envisioning the man he hoped to honor, a life devoted to giving, inspiring. Deciding it would be better to gather more information rather than delay, he felt a flicker of resolve ignite within him. Maybe this meeting could uncover a path forward. But the diner was a known place, filled with regulars, and he couldn't afford anyone discerning the tension beneath his calm surface. He needed to be strategic. As evening approached, he donned a pair of jeans and a simple shirt, carefully opting for a guise of casual ease that belied the chaos beneath. The more he thought about the meeting, the more clarity emerged. He didn't want to just reclaim the suitcase. He wanted to redefine what wealth meant to him. Arriving at the diner, he felt the familiar smells and sounds wrap around him like a warm blanket, though the warmth did little to diffuse his anxiety. He spotted a shadowy figure in the corner booth, nearly obscured by the dim lighting. A man in a worn leather jacket sat hunched over, his face obscured. Sam approached cautiously, each step measured, his mind racing with questions, strategies, and uncertainties. "Glad you came," the man said, raising his head slightly. Sam's heart raced at the piercing gaze of the stranger. "You're in deep with this suitcase business. Who are you?" Sam's voice was steadier than he felt. He sensed a cautious moment where clarity met trepidation. "I have information that can help you make the right choice," the stranger stated, leaning in closer. "But it has a price." Sam's stomach twisted. Here it was, the confrontation with temptation. The allure of money, a possible shortcut to security, was within reach. But at what cost? "I'm not looking to get involved in something illegal." The man chuckled softly, a sound that felt neither comforting nor threatening. "It's not about legality, Sam. It's about morality. Trust me, the suitcase is worth more than you think. It's not just about the cash." In that instant, a flicker of recognition sparked within him. This wasn't just about money. This was about who he was becoming, the legacy he aimed to uphold. It was about the values he would transfer to his children, values he wrestled with in every moment. "What do you mean?" he asked, curiosity tinged with apprehension. The stranger's eyes narrowed. "Let's just say, I know what Walter's fortune means, and it's not just a blank check for you to fill in." Sam felt the urgency tighten around him. Every reason to turn away battled with the pull to hear more. Could this be the revelation he desperately needed to change his life? Before he could formulate a response, the stranger leaned back, studying him closely. "The real question is, can you handle the truth?" Sam's heart raced. In the embrace of uncertainty, he realized he needed to know, not just about the suitcase, but about himself. Staring into the stranger's intense gaze, he contemplated the profound shift that could lie ahead. Would he embrace the truth that might alter the very course of his life and expose the deeper meaning behind the fortune? His pulse quickened, knowing he was teetering on the edge of a pivotal decision. What truth awaited him in the depths of Walter's legacy? Sam felt the weight of the stranger's gaze, a palpable force compelling him to dig deeper into the meaning of this encounter. The diner buzzed quietly around them, moments dripping like syrup, thick with tension. He had come here for clarity, and yet he felt increasingly lost as the stranger's words looped in his mind. "What do you know about Walter?" Sam pressed, his curiosity edging out the fear. The legacy left behind was a tapestry woven of integrity, sacrifice, and values he strived to inherit and uphold. The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Everything. Your father wasn't just about philanthropy and charity. He was a pivotal figure in much more than people realize. The suitcase, it holds more than just cash." Sam's instinct told him to retreat, yet he remained rooted. "What are you saying? What does it have to do with me? Your father's fortune is tied to a choice, a responsibility. You're the heir, but the legacy comes with strings," the stranger said, shifting forward slightly. "It's not merely about accepting or rejecting. It's about understanding what it means to carry that weight." A flicker of irritation ignited within Sam. Was he to bear the burden of understanding his father's moral compass and standing amidst shady waters where money blurred the lines of right and wrong? Yet hints of a deeper understanding beckoned to him. It didn't take long for his emotions to spiral into doubt and resolve. "What are these strings you speak of? Could you just tell me what's in the suitcase?" His voice trembled. He was wrestling with emerging feelings that were almost foreign. Could this be more than just a dilemma of right and wrong, a consideration of the greater good? The stranger leaned back, crossing his arms. "The suitcase is a means to an end, but it doesn't define who you are or who you must become. It is a tool, Sam. Your destiny is dependent on the actions you take. Will you use it for self-gain or for something greater?" Sam's mind raced. To use the money for change would mean stepping into the legacy instilled by Walter, yet the mere idea sent shockwaves of internal conflict through him. This wasn't merely a question of monetary value, it was a matter of belief and purpose. In that instant, he recognized his father's influence in every fiber of the conundrum he faced. The idea of wielding the suitcase for altruism was intoxicating, yet uncertainty flooded his thoughts. He questioned his ability to enact the change his father had envisioned. Would he crumble under the responsibilities that came with inherited wealth? Was he ready to redefine his life around the choices beckoning before him? A profound silence lingered, amplifying the ferocity of his thoughts. Imagine what you can achieve with that fortune, Sam. It could be an advantage for you or an opportunity to elevate those around you, the man said, gauging his response. What if I fail? Sam finally admitted, vulnerability leaking past his defenses. What if I let everyone down? Failing is part of the journey. What matters is what you learn from it and how you rise again. The choices you make today will echo into tomorrow. That is the true legacy, replied the stranger, his voice steady and resolute. With those words, a small ember ignited deep within Sam. Doubt still lingered like a heavy fog, but determination began to peel away the layers of his apprehension. If he could grasp the truth his father sought to reveal, perhaps he could navigate a future aligned with his values. Sam met the stranger's gaze, a burgeoning sense of purpose beginning to awaken within him. What do I need to do? The man's lips curled into a knowing smile, but Sam felt the air shift as the weight of the question loomed above them. The real journey starts now, but first, you must confront your past and the choices that brought you to this moment. Only then will you understand what lies in that suitcase, and what lies in you. As he sat back, the tension coiling around him, Sam's mind raced with the implications. The path ahead was shrouded in uncertainty, but now its complexity felt exhilarating rather than deplorable. What was hidden in the shadows of his father's legacy? Was he prepared to unravel a truth that could irrevocably change his life, and more importantly, who he could become? A surge of anticipation surged through Sam as he processed the stranger's words. The past lay before him, not as a linear timeline, but as a series of choices tangled in complexity. Faced with a legacy that felt both burdensome and promising, he sensed the urgency to dissect what had been left for him. This was not merely about financial inheritance. It was a quest for meaning and authenticity. What choices? What do you mean by confronting my past? Sam's voice was steadier now, his innate determination pushing through the fog of uncertainty. The stranger leaned in, the weight of his gaze anchoring Sam. Your father wasn't just a man of wealth. He was a man of principle. Understand the values that guided him, and you'll uncover the path meant for you. You need to dive into his history, to the moments that shaped that legacy. Sam's thoughts spiraled further into introspection. Memories flooded him. His father's quiet kindness, the late-night meetings he'd overheard. Each event, seemingly innocuous at the time, hinted at a greater story, a network of decisions influenced by integrity, yet cloaked in shadows. Sam felt the need to sift through those memories and discern which were worth heeding. "Will you help me?" Sam asked, summoning courage he didn't know he had. The man considered him for a moment, then nodded. "But remember, it won't be easy. Your past can be as much an adversary as an ally. You must be willing to face hard truths and contradictions." With a wave of the man's hand, a sudden surge of clarity washed over Sam. This was about more than just wealth or power. It was about legacy and identity. I need to start finding out who my father really was, beyond the philanthropist everyone admired. I need to see the man behind the myth. Precisely, the stranger said with approval. He involved himself in affairs that tested his values, decisions that had consequences. Start at the foundation. The suitcase isn't the key. Your understanding is. As Sam contemplated this, he felt a mix of exhilaration and dread. Each tangible aspect of his father's life that he would explore could unearth aspects of himself he had long suppressed or ignored. He resolved to begin his journey immediately, but where to start? The files in his parents' study? The archived news articles? Each pathway seemed laden with potential landmines of revelation. Suddenly, a door to the diner swung open, a rush of wind bringing with it a chill. An older woman entered, her expression one of recognition as she locked eyes with Sam. It was Joan, a friend of his mother and a former business associate of Walter. Perhaps she held knowledge that could illuminate aspects of his father's life that remained shadowy. "Sam," she called, the warmth of her voice cutting through the tension. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Joan, do you have a moment?" Sam felt an impulsive urgency push him forward. "I need to ask you about my father, about what he did, what he stood for." Her eyes softened with both empathy and concern, as if she recognized the gravity of his inquiry. "Of course, dear, but it's a long story. Are you ready to hear about the choices he made?" The weight of the decision hung in the air. This was it. Sam stood at the precipice of revelation and discomfort, the bridge between his past and future. Could he handle the truths that lay ahead? The enormity of his quest began to coalesce into a singular path forward. With a deep breath, Sam nodded. Yes, I need to know. As they settled into a booth, his heart raced with anticipation. What revelations awaited him? What parts of his father's journey would challenge him, as both a son and an individual? This was the first step toward unraveling not just his father's choices, but his own purpose. The quest to comprehend Walter's legacy had ignited something deep within Sam, a flicker of determination that would guide him as he unearthed buried truths. Yet, hidden beneath that flicker, was a question that twisted in the shadows. What if the truth was more painful than he anticipated? What if the legacy he sought to embrace spiraled into chaos, testing not just his convictions, but the essence of who he believed he was? The road ahead was uncertain, but now Sam was prepared to confront it. Would his pursuit of understanding redefine not only his father's legacy, but also his own future? Joan took a moment before she answered, her gaze wavering as if wrestling with the weight of shared memories. Sam could sense the palpable tension in the air, his anticipation mingling with unease. This was not merely a conversation about his father's business dealings. It was a descent into the very heart of a legacy that had long been shrouded in silence. Your father, she began, her voice low, was a man driven by his principles. He believed that wealth, while powerful, should be wielded responsibly. But it wasn't always simple for him. What do you mean by that? Sam probed, leaning in. Joan hesitated before continuing, a flicker of concern crossing her features. He encountered difficult choices, several decisions that pitted his ethical beliefs against the harsh realities of the business world. There were times he could have taken the easy route, compromise, deceit, but he chose the harder path more often than not. Some decisions, however, forced him into murky waters. Sam's mind raced. Each word from Joan deepened his resolve to uncover the truth. Yet with every revelation came the fear of what he might discover. What choices? He pressed, the urgency in his voice cutting through the din of the diner. Let me tell you about the merger with Sterling Corp. It was a pivotal moment for your father. Everyone in the industry knew that merging with them would provide substantial profit, but there were rumors of unethical practices that your dad couldn't ignore. She paused, searching for the right words. He ultimately walked away from the deal, risking everything. Is that why people admired him? Sam asked, the pieces of his father's character starting to form a clearer picture, albeit a complex one. For sacrificing profit to uphold integrity? Joan nodded. Yes, but it also meant he made enemies. People who saw him as a threat. Sometimes integrity fosters resentment. It's a double-edged sword. Sam replayed these moments in his head. Could he, like his father, confront adversities built from moral dilemmas? Would the revelations change how he viewed success in his own life? The thought of claiming a legacy that might be marred by conflicts weighed heavily on him. He suddenly realized that understanding Walter's choices might not only require him to face his father's truths, but also his own values. Did he ever regret those choices? Sam's voice wavered. The thought felt like a direct hit, and he could feel the intensity of the conversation pressing against him. There were days when he questioned himself, Joan admitted, her eyes reflecting a mix of nostalgia and sorrow. But deep down, he believed in his path. That belief was what shaped him, and ultimately, it shaped you too. Sam's heart raced as he absorbed the implications. Was the same intrinsic value system that guided Walter already present in him? Or had it become buried beneath years of seeking approval and financial success? The prospect of facing these questions forced a swell of determination through him. Joan, what if I uncover something I don't like? Something that changes how I view my father, or worse, how I view myself. The question sat heavily between them, each word dipped in apprehension. Joan looked at him with steady resolve. You might, Sam, but it's in those moments of discomfort that you'll find clarity. Remember, understanding doesn't always mean agreement. It's about acknowledging the complexities, both of your father and yourself. Their conversation lingered around the edges of morality and identity, a stark reminder that personal evolution often demands navigating rough truths. Sam's pulse quickened, not just from fear of what he might find, but from the possibility that each truth could be the catalyst for a transformation with profound implications on his own life choices. As they finished their discussion, Sam felt a newfound determination brewing. He would seek out the files, the articles, the truth hidden in the layers of his father's legacy. He needed to prepare himself for the impact of this journey. The stakes had never felt higher. Steeling himself for the exploration ahead, he took a final glance at Joan, who had become an unexpected guide through his labyrinth of familial uncertainties. "Thank you for sharing, Joan. I know it's just the beginning, but I'm ready." "Good. Just remember, Sam, whatever you find, it's not just about the past, it's about who you choose to become." As he stepped out of the diner, the cool air struck him with a sense of urgency that drove him forward. He would dive headfirst into this exploration, ready to confront the murky waters of his father's choices. With each step, he could feel the gravity of unresolved questions tugging at him. Where would this lead? What fragments of truth awaited him? And would they stand in stark contrast against the persona he had shaped for himself? The road ahead was unpaved, but one thing was certain. Sam was no longer just a seeker of legacy. He was on the brink of a personal reckoning, one that could redefine everything he believed about his family, and ultimately, himself. And with that thought lurking, he prepared to open the first file that could unveil a truth far greater. Perhaps dark, perhaps enlightening, but undeniably vital for his journey. Would he find the answer to who Walter truly was? Or would the evocation of the past reveal more about Sam than he was ready to confront? The office was dimly lit, the faint hum of the overhead lights replaced by the quiet rustle of paper as Sam shuffled through drawers and filing cabinets, searching for remnants of his father's past. Each file he opened felt like a Pandora's box, a glimpse into decisions that had sculpted Walter's legacy, for better or worse. A sense of foreboding coursed through him, tightening his chest with every piece he unearthed. He unrolled a document marked with Walter's bold signature, an old memorandum detailing the merger negotiations with Sterling Corp. The language was technical and dense, but as he pieced it together, a narrative emerged that was far darker than he had anticipated. Despite the financial incentives, Walter had cited deep ethical concerns in his refusal to proceed. These notes contained a stark warning against those who would sacrifice integrity for profit, and Sam found himself grappling with the weight of that conviction. Closing his eyes momentarily, he wrestled with the implications. Was this the same moral fortitude he had been seeking in himself, or merely a facade for maintaining an image? He opened his eyes, his mind racing through the echoes of Joan's words about discomfort breeding clarity. In seeking to understand his father, would he also discover the unsettling truths about his own choices? His fingers traced the edges of the documents, and he pulled out a handwritten note from Walter that sent a chill down his spine. It seemed more personal than professional, laced with a burden of regret. "Sometimes the hardest decisions are those that define us," it read. "The easy path leaves no room for respect." Respect. Sam had chased after accolades and financial success, occasionally at the expense of deeper principles. Was he now facing a moment of reckoning? To navigate this legacy meant addressing the fragments of himself he had buried beneath his ambition. He turned to the next folder, feeling both hope and dread as he flipped through the pages. An email thread stood out, addressing not the merger directly, but conversations with a whistleblower who had attempted to expose Sterling Corp's malpractices. The tone was heated, fearful yet resolute, much like Sam felt now, torn between the shadows of his father's choices and the potential reflections on his own attitudes toward success. The final email was an ultimatum, made clear with a closing line that not only resonated within the mounting tension, but also shifted his perspective. To compromise is to surrender your legacy. The words plummeted in Sam's stomach. Dismantling any illusions he had entertained about taking the easy route might also dismantle the way he perceived himself. Suddenly the walls seemed to close in, and he felt the weight of existential dread seep into his veins. How could he evolve past the achievements he had so doggedly pursued when everything about his identity was tied to societal validations? What legacy would he end up carving out for himself, built on the ruins of his father's demanding principles? With a shaky breath, he glanced at the clock, his time running thin. Each answer seemed to reveal more questions that pushed him toward an impossible fork in the road. Either he could follow the spirit of Walter's convictions, a risky crusade that could lead to profound personal growth, or he could succumb to the path of least resistance, ultimately risking losing himself to the very compromises Walter had so vehemently avoided. A realization struck him. He could no longer remain a passive spectator to his own life. He had to confront the uncomfortable truths both about his father and himself. Looking at the pile of documents, he understood that the journey wasn't only about uncovering the past, but was also about his own evolution. How far he was willing to go in embracing the complexity of his identity. Just as he decided to dig deeper, determined to seek the truth, he noticed a file tucked beneath the others, its exterior bruised and worn. Without hesitation, he pulled it out and began to open it. What unexpected revelation would this reveal? Would it signal a deeper connection to his father's legacy, or unravel the very fabric of what he thought he knew? The moment of truth beckoned as he turned the file over in his hands, tension amping up within him. Would this manage to reshape everything he believed, or cast him into darkness? He held his breath as he unfolded the first page. Would he uncover what truly lay behind Walter's choices? Or would the next discovery lead him further away from the clarity he sought? The paper crinkled beneath his fingers, each unfolding a testament to decisions made long before his time. Sam's pulse quickened as he skimmed the opening lines, meticulous handwriting establishing a familiar yet alien voice. A handwritten account, detailing not just financial pursuits, but a more profound internal struggle. He couldn't ignore the sensation of being drawn into his father's psyche, the echoes of their shared discontent reverberating within him. "My greatest fear has always been compromise," Walter wrote. The sentence shone through the fragments of business jargon, cutting through the fog of technicalities. Sam felt the weight of those words settle in his gut. Compromise had been a tool, a tactic he had wielded routinely, bending ethics for advantage, smoothing over morality in the temple of success. Did his father, all those years ago, share a similar dilemma? As he read on, he realized that Walter's resistance was grounded in personal experiences, stories of betrayal and corruption that stemmed from the murkiest corners of corporate greed. Each note unveiled a different aspect of the man he thought he had known so well, an unwavering commitment to principles that had not only shaped his work, but ultimately contributed to his estrangement from family, from acceptance, and perhaps from himself. For the first time, Sam felt the crux of their distance distill into understanding. The honor that had defined Walter's professional life had exacted a high personal cost. Sam's ambition suddenly seemed threadbare in comparison, a superficial layer easily peeled away to reveal the rawness beneath. The scream of ambition that had once seemed so exhilarating now felt tinged with the bitterness of hollow successes. He flipped further into the file, uncovering transcripts of meetings where Walter had stood firm against board pressure, defending ethical standards against powerful interests. The adjectives became emotionally charged as well as factually compelling, driving directly into the heart of Sam's own convictions. Every anecdote shared unfolded a world where righteousness collided with wealth, where integrity battled earthly gains. Sam realized that these were not merely business decisions. They were deeply personal convictions that shaped a man who inspired loyalty from the few and suspicion from the many. Questions spiraled in Sam's mind. How could he walk the fine line his father had bravely treaded? Could he let the legacy of integrity redefine his struggle against the murky waters of business he had unconsciously embraced? The more he probed, the more he began uncovering a latent understanding of who he could become if he were to shed the facade of superficial success. Then, tucked amidst the indecipherable notes, Sam pulled out an unexpected artifact, a photograph showing Walter alongside the whistleblower, their expressions earnest yet marked by tension. A candid moment amidst a landscape of conflict. This image held a testament of brotherhood, an alliance forged against the tide of corruption. In this shared bravery, Sam could sense not just his father's battles, but also the reflection of an ethical stance he had yet to claim for himself. The deeper he delved, the clearer it became that he needed to confront more than just Walter's legacy. He faced the prospect of redefining his own identity. No longer could he act solely as the heir to a business empire. He would have to sculpt his own path, one wherein respect for principles held more weight than the allure of financial gain. Realigning his thoughts, Sam felt the cornerstone of his conviction shift. He could either cling to the persisting shadows of inherited ambition, or brave the forthcoming shadows of what ethical success could look like. The breakthrough lay tantalizingly close, gnawing at the edges of his resolve. But then, another thought struck him with cold clarity. If he embraced this newfound direction, what resistance would he face from those who once lauded his ambition? What would his peers think? Would he be marked as the outcast, like Walter once was? The weight of possibility hanging in the air became palpable. He found himself on the precipice of transformation, a bold stance emerging from the ashes of fear. With determination sharpening his focus, he rose from the cluttered floor and packed the documents back into the folder. He would not only explore his father's ethical stances, but prepare to confront the corporate structures that surged with greed. He could not walk forward into the unknown without solidifying his purpose. As he reached for his phone, ready to set intentions into motion, he hesitated just long enough to hear an echo of another question, a whisper that lingered unaddressed in his mind. What if the tide of ethical judgment turned against him, revealing secrets even he wasn't prepared to confront? Sam took a deep breath, ready to move forward. A path unfurled ahead, brimming with both possibilities and perils, and as he stepped into the light, he felt the exhilarating, unnerving call of an uncharted destiny waiting just beyond reach. The echoes of doubt lingered as Sam embarked on his newfound path. He stepped into the daylight outside his apartment, a city pulsing with ambition, yet plagued by moral decay. The clarity brought by the documents had shifted something deep within him. Armed with a churning mix of determination and apprehension, he set out to meet with his colleague, Thomas, the only person he felt could offer a semblance of understanding in this transformative moment. Thomas cracked a smile as he saw Sam approach the cafe on the corner. In many ways, he represented the very embodiment of the ambition Sam had once idolized, sleek, sharp, and relentlessly focused on success. But today, that image felt increasingly like a mask worn by a stranger. The conversation about quarterly results and upcoming deals that had usually felt invigorating now seemed hollow. "Hey, Sam, you look different. Excited for the meeting?" Thomas asked, his voice carrying an edge of enthusiasm. "I think I've been doing some thinking," Sam said, sitting across from him, the weight of unformed thoughts swirling in his mind. "About what success really means." Thomas raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "What does that mean? Are you saying you want to go soft on numbers? Because we both know that can't happen." Sam felt the walls tightening around him, the pressure of expectation creeping back. "No, it's not about giving up on the results. It's more about the way we get there." The words tumbled out, raw and unfiltered. "What's changed?" Thomas leaned forward, and Sam could see the competitive fire in his eyes. "You've always been about that bottom line, man. You kidding me?" Sam hesitated, suddenly questioning if this was the right direction. Would opening up to his colleague cancel the journey he was on? But with a sudden clarity, he realized this was also a strategic endeavor, an opportunity to challenge his own instincts. "I've started to see how many compromises I've made along the way." For a moment, silence hung heavy between them. Thomas's expression morphed from curiosity to skepticism. "You mean, like, ethics? Come on, Sam. We know it's a ruthless game out there. If you don't play hard, you get played." "What if there's another way?" Sam pressed, emboldened. "What if we could do better, lead by principles instead of chasing profit at the cost of everything else?" "Principles?" Thomas let out a short laugh, but there was an underlying tension in his response. "You really think that'll fly in this world?" "Yes, I do," Sam asserted, feeling a flicker of passion igniting. The embers of his father's legacy were fanning into flames within him, forcing back doubts he had clung to for so long. He needed to push this point. "Maybe we can redefine what it means to succeed. I'm not just talking about the spreadsheets. It's bigger than that." Despite the resolve behind his words, Sam felt the looming dissatisfaction of his choices weighing heavily on him. Here he was, standing at the edge of a precipice and fearing the fall. Would he abandon security for principle? Could he truly muster the courage to reshape the world around him, knowing it might lead to isolation from those he once admired? Thomas stared into his coffee, invisible walls forming, as if weighing the possibilities. "So you want to be the guy who stands up for what's right then? Because if you do that, if you take the risk and put integrity above profit, you might lose your place at the table." The air crackled with tension, and Sam braced himself. "I'm willing to—" Before he could finish, Thomas interjected, a chilling reality washing over the conversation. "Do you think your father lost everything to preserve some ethical ideal? What's that going to bring you, a pat on the back at a retirement party or a lonely tombstone?" The words cut deep, and Sam's stomach turned as shadows of doubt flickered across his mind. But instead of retreating, he faced the burgeoning threat. Maybe what's left isn't always about superficial approval. Maybe it's about showing up for those who need someone to stand for change. If that cost me my role here, so be it. The conviction in his voice surprised even himself. For years he had allowed his identity and worth to be defined by the opinions of others. Perhaps now was the time to shift that perspective entirely. However, as he squared his shoulders, ready to confront the shadows of doubt that loomed, a voice floated into his head. one that echoed his father's final words on the papers left behind. "The real battle lies within." Sam leaned forward, preparing to articulate the next step of his intention, but an unexpected tremor of anxiety gripped him. Could he navigate the murky waters outside of corporate allegiance while still adhering to his newfound principles? With the conversation shifting into an uncertain terrain, he realized this was merely the beginning of a far more complicated struggle that lay ahead. He mustered his resolve and took a breath. "The time has come to face the truths we've both ignored. I'm ready to challenge the status quo, even if it means facing resistance." As he spoke those words, he felt a shift in the balance of their relationship, an unspoken challenge sparking between them. How far would he go to transform not just his life, but the company he felt destined to lead? Now, as concrete decisions loomed ahead, he sensed that the moment of truth was closer than ever. Would his courage summon change, or would it lead him away from everything he had thought he knew? The tension in the air thickened, and with trepidation coursing through him like electricity, Sam stepped deeper into a path rife with potential confrontation, but shimmering with the hope of a radical transformation. The path was finally laid out before Sam Mitchell, each step charged with newfound clarity and purpose. No longer haunted by the specters of doubt and self-imposed limitations, he sat across from Thomas with a commitment to redefine his future. "It's time to lead with integrity. I'll channel Walter's legacy into a tangible impact right here in this community." A charged silence enveloped the cafe as the words resonated with unexpected finality. Sam leaned in, fueled by a determination that eclipsed all fears. "I have a vision for a community fund that directly uplifts families in need, investing in education and opportunities instead of chasing empty profit. This is where I want to direct Walter's legacy, taking that money from the suitcase and creating something meaningful." Thomas's eyebrows shot up, incredulity replacing his skepticism. "You're actually serious? How do you plan to deal with the board? They won't be on board with a philanthropic agenda. They want results, not charity." "I'll show them that integrity is a measurable return on investment," Sam replied, his voice steady and assured. "If I can demonstrate that this initiative enhances our community, it will not only have financial implications, but attract a new market segment, a generation ready to invest in conscious businesses." He felt a tidal wave of relief rush over him, the moment crystallizing into a point of transformation. Every doubt that had lingered began to fade, just as the shadows of his past loosened their grip. This was a defining moment. He wasn't just inheriting Walter's legacy, he was stepping into a completely new role as a creator of it. As he left the cafe, Sam realized his ambition was evolving from a solitary pursuit into a collective drive for change. The doubts that had frightened him days prior became the fuel igniting an unwavering conviction. He decided that he would not ask for permission from those who didn't share his vision. Instead, he would lead by example. In the following weeks, Sam worked double time, a relentless pursuit of momentum that coursed through him like electricity. He organized focus groups, gathering input from families in the community to craft an initiative shaped by real needs. His vision crystallized into a proposal, each element representing not just a desire for change, but a pathway for revolutions of integrity and values embedded in business. One afternoon, standing poised in front of the boardroom, a sea of warm, expectant faces before him, Sam presented his proposal with unwavering confidence. "This isn't just a financial strategy, it's a movement. By fostering relationships that uplift our community, we can redefine what success means for ourselves and those who trust us." The room buzzed with intrigue as he laid out the connection between community empowerment and economic viability. And then came the moment he had dreamed through every sleepless night. The board agreed unanimously to fund the community initiative, recognizing the untapped potential to bind growth to ethical business practices. The weight of the decision echoed with every heartbeat, the numbers contrasting sharply with the richness of purpose he felt swelling in his chest. Days turned into months, and with every action Sam took, he witnessed real transformation. Families thrived as the community welcomed scholarships, mentorships, and resources that encouraged upward mobility. Sam became a hero, not just in the boardroom, but within the neighborhood that had shaped his very identity. He didn't steal a fortune. He created a legacy, one built on principles rather than profits. The mantra of compassion, fashioning a new narrative of success. The warmth of gratitude shone in the eyes of those whose lives he had touched. The authentic connections he forged, now intertwined in the fabric of the community. Discovering newfound respect within himself and others solidified the realization that he had emerged from the shadow of his father's legacy and crafted his own. Through each challenge faced, Sam Mitchell transformed from an anxious soul wrestling with the weight of his father's past to a beacon of hope in the present. In seeking to honor Walter's memory, he had discovered his own true calling. The suitcase no longer bound him. It had become a vessel of potential, symbolizing a life of integrity and purpose. As he watched children play in the community center established from the fund, joyfully engaged in educational activities, the knowledge of his achievement washed over him. The feeling of rightful fulfillment, solid confidence, and rightful recognition were yours at last. With a final glance at the gathering, Sam understood that purpose wasn't achieved through financial success alone. It was built on relationships, hope, and the courage to challenge the status quo. The legacy of integrity he now upheld became a living legacy, not just of his father, but of his own transformative journey. So now, as you stand inspired by Sam's incredible journey, take a moment. The stories of personal growth and overcoming challenges are vital to our connection. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show the world the transformation of hearts and minds. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion, because true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Don't wait even one more second.